welcome to Skillsoft Presents ET Studios HR Connect in association with ETHRWorld. My name is Shanteri Malya and it's my pleasure to welcome you all to this conversation. Today we are getting into a theme that is close to everyone, every HR leader's heart, about how AI and automation are reshaping the way organizations are rethinking their learning, skilling, upskilling strategies while retaining the human element. To unpack all of this, we have a sharp panel with us. Smita Subhash, Director and HR Business Partner, APAC and EMEA Tech at Uber. Amarpreet Kaur Ahuja, Country Head HR at AstraZeneca India. And from Skillsoft, we are joined by Akshay Birala, Vice President, Strategic Initiatives. Hello and welcome to all our panelists. Thank you so much for joining us here at the studios today. So let me start off with you, Amarpreet, calling you into the discussion. Thanks once again for joining us. So how do you really see AI and automation at the outset really reshaping the way industries are going to look at workforce capabilities, and how do you really see capabilities being enhanced? What core skills are really going to redefine the present and the future? All yours.
Thank you so much, and it's a pleasure to be here with you, with all of you here today. I think very clearly, as you're saying reshaping, for me, it's actually reorchestrating the whole space, if we can call it in that sense or spirit. First and foremost, the whole manner in which this entire, setup and the whole ecosystem is reshaping and orchestrating itself. I think the whole idea, as you were asking me in terms of core skills and capabilities, the way I define this is in a two-pronged approach. Number one, when we talk about the AI element or the AI centricity in terms of those skills and capabilities that are required in the entire ecosystem, in organizations, in corporate houses, the other side of the equation is the human-centric, capabilities. When I say AI, what does that really mean? It's so important to have that literacy, so important to be able to understand what it means to, do a simple prompt, to be able to understand what it really means to, integrate the whole AI ecosystem along with the ways of working and things like that. That entire literacy is such an important element when we talk about the skill or the capability enhancement. On the other side, keeping the human in the loop is actually central to the whole, element. And when I say that, what again that means is that the intelligence behind that human mind is so important to be able to integrate the whole thing. That core skill of whether it's creativity, whether it's the right element of prompting, whether it's your ability to integrate the entire setup, all of those are equally essential to be able to ensure that the right skills are there and you can integrate AI with the human in the space. Coming to AstraZeneca, let me give you an interesting example from where I come from. Being an organization which is a biopharmaceutical industry space and being a science-led, being pioneers in science as an organization, it's so critical for us to ensure that this is a space that needs to be integrated so that you can get your patients to you can get your medicines to the patients so much faster. How is that possible? How do you really do all of that? In terms of making sure that as an organization, a clear example of upskilling that I can share with all of you is a rollout that has happened across the organization, wherein we've looked at thriving in the age of AI, a core capability or a skill set where I'm so proud to say that over 50,000 employees have been, trained across the organization at different layers and levels. When I say there are 4 different layers and levels which we've sort of crafted out, within the HR function to enable our employees to understand what's the basics, whether it's the bronze certification, what is the next level in terms of understanding the, the Gen AI and the agentic AI, look at the silver certification, understand implementing all of that through a gold certification and being a platinum certified. And I'll tell you, over 40,000 employees are already in the stage of completing silver and gold certifications. That tells us the importance behind the skilling and ensuring that you're there in the game and you're ahead of the game when it comes to AstraZeneca.
Wonderful. Those are impressive numbers that you've just stated, Amarpreet. So thanks for sharing that. Let me call Smita into the discussion. So It's very clear that we have to be in the game, as Amarpreet rightly pointed out now. So from an Uber perspective, how you really look at upskilling, AI driven upskilling in particular, as a core focus, and how are you really looking at strategies around that, where diverse demographies and geographies, you have a workforce across the globe, how are you really integrating these pieces while looking at your dynamic workflows?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for the question, and really wonderful to be here. If you look at Uber as an organization, it works at a scale of 70 countries, 12,000 plus cities, and about 36 million trips happening every single day. And what it means also in terms of complexity then is all of this is happening in real time, and we are operating at that juncture of the physical and the digital. So for many years now, Uber has already been powered by AI, and we've had substantial use of AI and ML, both in terms of our user experience and also to create that operational efficiency as well. And so AI is not new to us. It's something that's part and parcel of our product, and something that is already embedded into the ecosystem as well. But coming specifically to generative AI, which has been the focus over the last few years, I'll take two areas in which we're looking at it. One is at a company level, and second is obviously within our technology teams. So if I talk about the company level, we believe that these tools and applications are relevant to every single function and every single employee. And hence, there are a lot of global trainings, right, to build those capabilities and skills. But also, more importantly, we have incorporated those AI tools applications into our daily workflows. And so there are a lot of employees across functions using this now, and this includes multiple things, including trainings which go beyond, okay, AI foundation, but actually how can you use it? How can you write a prompt? How can you create a Gen AI powered agent? We have AI team champs within functions who are early adopters of these of all of these technologies as well. Also a Gen AI advisor, you have multiple tools. How do I know which tool is important for which task? So all of these nuances are being available at the company-wide level. Now the technology space or the tech teams are very different. They are already very naturally at ease with all of these newer technologies. So then the focus more is in terms of how do we make this more practical for them. And I think the starting point is for us, what we've done is facilitated for all our developers and that entire community access to all the top tier coding models, very comprehensive training modules across various coding platforms, and also our own proprietary tools that are no code tools as well. And what we've seen is now developers are spending less time on more routine tasks, more time on deep think, understanding the actual customer sentiment, etc. The second aspect for technologists is we run a lot of hackathons, but not just in terms of newer ideas, but we see this as a way in which you can actually bring a lot of advancements of AI and have all of the developer community collaborate and start using these more effectively. And I think finally, in terms of a lot of focus is on various tech talks, conferences, meetups, where we bring in experts from both within the organization as well as externally, so that the technology team can focus on how they can really enhance the product.
Absolutely, and it's so important that a workforce of various calibers focus on core competencies than get stuck up in routine. I think that was a great input. Thank you. Akshay, from a perspective like we have various leaders from various high touch point industries sharing their views with us. Given the kind of shifts we are seeing now and how there is a scramble to look at AI driven upskilling, how does Skillsoft's AI solutions uniquely support organizations which have global touch points, which have diverse workforces, where core competencies are becoming increasingly important? How are these solutions kind of supporting organizations to make that next curve? Some thoughts, sir.
Sure. Thanks for having me, and thank you both for being part of this as well. Just seconding what both Smita and Preet spoke about, saying that you have to have it. AI has been around for a while. I'm sure both the industries have been using it for a while, but generative AI, like Smita said, has come up forward. So obviously at Skillsoft, we took to that like water right from the beginning, and that is important for us to go to the clients as well and go to our prospects and talk to them about what we're doing. I think it's important, just what we've been discussing is, how do you personalize it for a lot of them? You want to personalize it at the individual level, but also enough to scale at the level that both these companies are doing it and a lot of other clients of ours. So making sure we do that, not sacrificing quality, but also making sure the speed is important, because that is really important when we're doing any of these. So from a perspective of personalizing that, so if I am in HR, I want to see things that are relevant for me. I don't want to see how to code. So making sure using our AI platform to get that kind of information. Also creating safe spaces for people to talk about and practice what they're doing. So we created something called Casey, which basically lets you go and practice in a safe environment how to have a difficult conversation, how to actually work in an agile environment. So creating those kind of aspects is what we've seen has helped companies, and that's what we're going to double up on, trying to make things easier for the company and easier for the learner as well.
Wonderful. So I think it's important, I pick safe spaces as a key word. So my next question would be to Smita here. So skilling, upskilling, getting organizations to be agile in the AI-driven world, very important. But the role of the HR in including all the pieces becomes important. So how do you, as someone in the HR leadership, see this as, or see your role as an important integral force, the fulcrum to integrate these spaces? One is employee engagement, the human element, and at the same time technology becomes important, especially in this day and age. How do you see your role here?
Okay, I think a great question here in terms of our own role. I think a lot of experts have spoken about how AI adoption, it's not about AI taking over our roles, but those who are able to translate, leverage AI, who are going to be more at an advantage than the others. And I think this applies very core to our human resources function as well. And it is important for us to really be adaptable, pick up, use a lot of used cases as well, to see how we can implement it in our own roles so that we can make better decisions when it comes to inclusion or employee engagement. I'll give you a recent example. We spoke about how we have access to various AI-related tools and technologies that are available to us in our workflows. A group within the HR team came together and said, what are the different use cases in which we are actually leveraging AI? And we came through not just a lot of productivity improvements, but we saw use cases across in terms of things that we've tried and tested, or things that we thought we could explore, and what really were our learnings from that. And along with a lot of productivity improvements that we saw a lot of use cases around really designing key initiatives and programs, a lot in the change management and communication space, in terms of leadership coaching, as well as in terms of synthesizing inputs, consolidating insights that we get from various sources in our function. And so what we've been doing is actively using it in areas like leadership coaching, where we are giving AI coaches to managers to actually think through certain scenarios, case studies, and role play with an AI coach and get instantaneous feedback, which is a very safe space for them. And then in also areas where it's not just about consolidating insights from, say, an employee engagement survey, but going back to trend lines, talking about how it's integrated to the culture, and also coming up with potential action plans. And when you spoke about all of this, it's also about what is the role that we can play. And I think we can play a very key role in culture-based adoption as well. For example, we can ask employees, what is their sense of how AI is actually being leveraged? And when you do that, you can understand whether do we need to be more prescriptive, or do we allow for more bottoms-up experimentation? Like, what's that right balance? And we can also play a very key role in driving all of the AI trainings across, and also working with leaders as coaches to say, what is that push and the impetus to actually use all of these various tools and training in terms of both productivity as well as in terms of business outcomes as well. And I think finally HR can play a very nuanced role in certain critical questions that are coming our way. Things like, should we, there are so many expectations around AI, should we start putting it into our talent rubric, into our competencies that are role-based? and then say, okay, if it's now part of your role-based competencies, then you can leverage it at the time of hiring, in terms of development, in terms of performance-based conversations. You can stitch the thread very easily in terms of expectations as well. Or questions that are coming more recently in terms of, okay, if a candidate is using generative AI when answering a question, then does that mean that the person is more hireable, or is it not allowed at all? These are areas in which the HR team can actually play a very key role. So cultural adoption, but also staying ahead of the curve from our own functional perspective as well.
Absolutely. I saw many threads coming in from your response, a fantastic mix of how AI can be a fantastic enabler as well as the human element integrating into it. I think that was great insight, Smita. So, Amarpreet, taking a thread from what Smita just said, what are the strategic challenges that you generally encounter, and in an industry such as yours, high touch point industry such as yours, while actually integrating AI driven workflows along with the human workflows? Where are the challenges and how do you navigate them?
Thank you so much, and great examples, Smita. I think absolutely I was glued into trying to understand where and what's the role HR is playing, and totally resonating with the content you were sharing on how each one of us are, there in the entire space, in the game, making changes, looking at the cultural shifts, from a mindset perspective. So fantastic content there, I would say. But of course, like you rightly mentioned, there are those challenges that the organizations today are grappling with, and there's so much around it. And each organization today, I'll share a little bit of a generic thought process, and I'll come to AstraZeneca in a moment. I think what largely organizations are experiencing today is the ability to embrace this change, which is coming so rapidly. And when I say that, what does it mean? Right at the helm, when we talk about aligning your business strategy to that of, or interweaving the AI strategy to the business strategy, which I think is the number one challenge where are the leadership, able to, are the senior leadership in every organization able to align your AI strategy to that of a business strategy? If the two are not speaking to each other, there is going to be a clear mismatch in terms of how things are, progressing. Are we going to use it? Are we, behind? So there's a lot of that, challenge that organizations are experiencing. Number two is a data challenge. And when I say data challenge, what does it mean? When we talk about generative AI, it's about generating content out of the already existing content, and to be able to curate your designs in such a way that you get the meaningful outputs as a result of that. But if your data, if your systems, if your, your SOPs, your basic documentation and your, elements are not speaking to each other, if there's a challenge around that, then the output is really not going to be meaningful enough. And if and when the organizations are able to, tighten that whole thread from a data integration standpoint, getting your tools speaking to each other, getting your documentation and your knowledge articles in order, till such time all of that, your backbone is not, strengthened enough, your final output in terms of what you generate is really not going to be meaningful, which I think is a second very important element. Third challenge, which again is, from an HR perspective, I would say, is the resistance for change, is the resistance to actually bring about any element of change, to make sure that, unless you're going to embrace this, you're really not going to be ahead of the curve. So I think bringing that mindset change and the whole change management process, for which HR plays a very vital role in terms of bringing the whole ecosystem forward. Like you rightly mentioned, Smita, integrating the whole space of talent management, the whole space of performance management, integrating this into your goals itself, integrating this into your job scopes itself, will make sure that AI is the new way of, working. I think that's the third element of challenge which we experience today. Coming to AstraZeneca, let me give you a classic example of, where we had been from a, when you talk about meeting with your healthcare professionals on a daily basis, you need to be disseminating the science. You need to be talking to the community about what's the new science which is coming about. And when you have to do those conversations, it's so important that a sales rep, a medical representative should stay ahead of the curve in terms of understanding what and where is AI helping? So we've built a very beautiful, AI based sales assistant for our sales representatives, which is giving them their absolutely, the daily planning element of work. What is it that they need to be focusing on? What are the customers they are meeting on a daily basis? What's the kind of conversation, let's say, I'm having on a daily basis? Am I able to record all that content and regenerate that in terms of my next relationship conversation with you? So it's a very beautiful iterative tool being created to enable your sales representatives and make a assistant on the go. While you're on the field, you're having a chat with your assistant and working through all of that. So it took some time, like I said, resistance to change. It took some time for that adoption, but today it's like 100% adoption on the go, and it allows people to be far more productive in terms of having their conversations and connecting with the larger healthcare professionals on the field and making their work far more meaningful, because you're having richer conversations, you're able to connect the dots very beautifully, you're able to understand what's next for me and how am I able to disseminate the right kind of science to the doctors. So one example, like I said, is there for you to to understand and embrace.
Absolutely. I think these insights that came in from you and Smita are very enriching. So Akshay, time to call you in for your comments before anything else. So leaders clearly are kind of adapting to the AI driven world. They are introducing AI learning, skilling and upskilling mechanisms and platforms into their workflows. So what kind of AI driven insights can help them understand where the curve is and how they can personalize the learning mechanisms further, so that it can collaboratively integrate into their skilling platforms, and in what ways can they, what metrics or ways in which they can measure, effectively put this to something that can tie back to business outcomes, because that is the ultimate goal. So if you can give some examples.
Sure. And I think you hit the nail on the head by saying that anything that HR or us as a learning workforce transformation partner has to align with business imperatives, meaning if that doesn't align, nothing's going to work out. So from that perspective, we've been working with clients for the last 30 years, talking about, and obviously scale has been one of the biggest things for companies such as Uber and AstraZeneca. Obviously scale is a big part of it, and making sure that all of them are aligned. And going back to my first answer, where it has to be personalized as well. So going to someone from a sales perspective, they need to have that readily available, so that helps them in the flow of work. And that's what we want to try and do, and that's what we've been helping companies do, is help learners learn in the flow of work, rather than saying, okay, I need to take that 2 minutes out or the 10 minutes out and do it. And a lot of people want to look at it from different ways. I may like doing it through a course or video. Some people may like looking at a book. Some people may like listening to audiobooks, like we said, about podcasts or something. So making sure that AI is used intelligently to get that in front of the right person, so that they get what they want, not just from a content perspective, but from a modality perspective as well. That's important for a lot of learners. Going to how you use that data. Again, getting all that data is important for a client. So we have something called skill benchmarks. So if from a technology perspective, or even from just a leadership perspective, you want to know how your succession planning is from a leadership perspective, and from a technology perspective, you need to know if someone's well equipped to do what they have to do, which is coming up. Maybe it's a new technology. So making sure that we have folks who can actually do those skill benchmarks to give a bird's eye view for everyone, from HR to the manager, to say, okay, I have X number of people who are developing in this technology or in this content space, and we have so many who are advanced. So it gives you a ready view to do that. So from a Skillsoft perspective, the platform that we've built and are building and investing in is to give that kind of view. We want to be that fulcrum so that you have so many, and I heard both Smita and Amanpreet speak, that we have so many partners, we have so many things, tools that we use to get everyone together. How do you get all of that together and have a bird's eye view from their position is what we're going to work on. And using AI effectively to get those numbers, get that data, to put it together so that it's in a readable format for both of them. And then when they take it to senior management and say, this is what we've achieved. So that's where Skillsoft plays a role in all of that.
Sure. Do you have an example or so which
Sure.
can kind of articulate the point a little further?
Sure. One of the things that Smita mentioned was about AI skilling across the board. So we did it for a multinational company with 90,000 employees across the board. And in 6 months, they had to get them from an AI foundation level to an intermediate level. And that is important both from just hearing things and practicing it. I think getting people to have hands-on practice on a lot of this is important. So that's where we go and have Casey, which is giving you a safe space to do it. You have practice labs, so if you want to learn how to prompt, and that could be prompting from a HR person or a marketing person to a salesperson to a technologist. So a marketing person, how do I get the right kind of information out? How do I do it from an internal communications perspective? So creating all of that. So we created a blended journey, which not only had just content and practice labs, but also had some VILTs and ILTs to get people to learn from stalwarts in the industry and take them through that journey for over 3.5, 4 months, which got 90% of them from that foundation level to intermediate level. So that was a huge success for us. And then we've used that idea and seen it, not one size fits all, but we've used that idea to go to different industries and different companies to show this is how we can scale it. And we've been successful in doing that so far.
Wonderful. So this was a wonderful conversation, great insights. Thank you so much for joining us on this conversation. So that was a candid, refreshingly honest conversation around how AI-driven upskilling is now here to stay. It's not going away anywhere, but the sooner organizations get to understand that upskilling is not a far corner of their strategies, the better for everyone as we move and adapt to the ever-changing continuum of the technological world. So many thanks to Akshay, to Smita and to Amarpreet for their honest, refreshingly diverse answers, insights and the examples that they shared of the real world in order to respond to the ever-changing continuum of technology. So thank you so much. You've been present with us for Skillsoft presents ET Studios HR Connect in association with ETHRWorld. Thank you so much. This is Shanteri Malya here and we'll see you at the next session. Thank you.